And it's so good to be with everybody. I wish I were there with everyone in person. I wish we were all in one room together. I love being in the House of Labor. I miss being in the House of Labor, but I will always be in the House of Labor, even if I'm not there physically at the moment. And so, Nia, thank you, Madam Vice President, for that introduction. Megan, for getting us started, and the ferocious, amazing detailer for your friendship and your leadership and all that you do. You know, before I begin my remarks, I just want to say, we know this is an extraordinary moment in the history of our country for a number of reasons. You know, Joe Biden talks about that we're in the middle of 4 crises, right? A public health crisis, an economic crisis, a reckoning in terms of racial justice and systemic racism in our country, and then, of course, a climate crisis. But all of these things have, in a disproportionate way, fell on the shoulders of working men and women in America. And labor and organized labor, you have always been the ones, and the leaders who are on this call have always been the ones who, in spite of the struggle, in spite of the fight, in spite of the unfairness, in spite of the indignities that folks face, you always stand tall, because you know that so many people look in your eyes to make sure everything's going to be okay. And so I just want to start by thanking you, the men and women who are the leaders of organized labor and Unite here, for all you do that is about supporting folks who need this support right now and deserve all that you bring them, but you do it at great sacrifice and you make it look easy. And I know that it is not. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. And on behalf of Joe and myself, your endorsement means the world to me and to him. And of course, like I said, you represent the voice of millions of hardworking Americans. And Joe and I are so incredibly honored to have your support. And I pledge to you, and history, you know, proves this to be true. I will always stand with you. Joe will always stand with you in the fight for the dignity of work and for the dignity of working men and women. And, you know, as it relates to this campaign, we know this is also no ordinary election season. We're in the midst of a historic pandemic, like I said, a reckoning on race and justice. And we're looking at this catastrophe. It's affecting my home state of California, which is, you know, burning. We're looking at folks on our coasts who have dealt with these storms that just every year get worse and worse. Oregon, Washington, consumed by flames. And so we're in the midst of all of those. And then, of course, families are being just beaten down by this economic crisis. And the reality of it that we also know is that right now, the offshoot of this, the impact of this, is that we have 1 in 5 mothers who have been describing their children under the age of 12 as being hungry. People in America are waiting in food lines for hours, getting there at the crack of dawn, hoping that by the time they drive up, there's still food left. So in the midst of all this, we're talking about a hunger crisis. We are looking at 11 million jobs at least that have been lost. Nearly 30 million people have been collecting unemployment. And the number is even larger when you think about those who not only are unemployed, but underemployed. Latino unemployment was at over 10% as of August. Black unemployment was at least 13%, compared to 7.3% among white Americans. Statewide unemployment in Nevada reached 14%, 11.3% in Florida, and 10.6% in Arizona as of July. So think about that, right? We're talking about at least 1 in 10 people. And we know the service and hospitality industries have been hit the hardest. At least 80% of Unite Here workers are currently out of work. Dee, I called you at the beginning of this pandemic to check in with you, and you share with me only about 2% of your workers were working at that time. And it's not much better now. The leisure and hospitality sector as a whole is down 4 million jobs from February, 4 million jobs. And that represents 4 million families. That represents 4 million members of communities that are part of the lifeblood of those communities. And so these are more than just statistics, these numbers that I've reeled off. They're stories about real human beings and their full lives and how their full lives are being impacted by the pandemic that has resulted in an economic crisis of a proportion that people have compared to the Great Depression, and on and on. And every family then is struggling to make ends meet. And there are countless sacrifices and impossible decisions that people are making around the kitchen table, sitting up at night trying to figure out how to make it work. And so this is not only about sacrifice and suffering, it's also about pride and dignity, because working people take pride in their work and their ability to work. And folks want to just do their jobs and rest securely each night in the belief that they can care for their family tomorrow. So all of that to say that you are the folks, everyone on this call, who I and Joe, we take with us every day when we think about what's at stake over the next 50 days in this campaign and beyond. And it is you who we have in mind when we talk about what we need to do to build back better, and what we need to do to win this election so that we can have leadership that really does see the people and see working people and understand the dignity of work. For a number of reasons, including working families are our future. And if you look past his rhetoric, it is clear that Donald Trump does not have working families in mind when he is setting priorities. He certainly didn't back in February when we learned that he knew how dangerous COVID-19 was, but chose to deceive us for his own political benefit. A Biden-Harris administration will respect science over politics. And most importantly, we will respect you. You deserve the truth and vital information to help you keep yourselves and your families safe. Meanwhile, we are 8 months into this crisis, and Donald Trump still doesn't have a plan. Still doesn't have a plan. But Joe and I do, and we all do. Organized labor does. Unite Here does. We know what is going to be necessary to help us get through this and get on the other side. And so part of the plan in a Biden-Harris administration will be to promote a national mask standard. Since the experts are clear, if 95% of people wear a mask from now until December, nearly 70,000 lives will be saved. We will listen to the experts and work with local and state officials and not play politics with people's lives. We will expand access to testing without cost and testing available to all people regardless of immigrant status without cost. And we will build the infrastructure we need to basically put in place contact tracing in America. And we will support the development and dissemination of a safe vaccine, because we can bring this virus under control with a plan and with real leadership, which is also exactly what we need to get our economy back up and running. Joe and I will take immediate action to get as many workers as possible back on the job. We will keep workers safe on the job as you interact with customers. Part of our plan is making sure that you are provided with paid leave, with PPE, and with protections through OSHA, something that the Trump administration and Republicans are trying to weaken, which is OSHA standards. We will create and enforce an emergency temporary standard, which would ensure that employers follow clear guidelines to keep workers safe from COVID. We'll provide state and tribal and local public health departments with the resources they need to certify businesses as what we call safe for shoppers, right? Because once that happens and that business has then complied with testing procedures and safe COVID protocols, we know that it is more likely that the consumers, the customers will come back. And that's part of the issue. And I know we know that in places like Nevada, I mean, all over the country, which is that no matter whether a government or an entity says we're going to open back up, if the customers don't feel that they're going to be safe, they're not going to come. So that's part of how Joe and I are thinking about this. We will provide rent relief for those who are struggling to pay their bills at the end of each month, and provide a $15,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers. Our plan includes basically relief for laid-off workers and unions by continuing to call on the Republican Senate to pass the HEROES Act. You know, Nancy Pelosi, our Democrats in the House, they got it through the House, and they need to put it on the floor. Mitch McConnell needs to put it on the floor in the Senate for a vote, so that we can extend unemployment benefits and those enhanced unemployment benefits. Joe and I will protect your access to quality health care, especially during a pandemic. And in particular, when we're talking about Unite Here, your hard-fought access and right to quality health care. And to make sure that workers who lose medical benefits can continue their coverage at no cost. We'll provide an additional $10 billion in emergency grants for small businesses and nonprofits, including unions, of course, like Unite Here, and roll back the Trump tax cut for the ultra wealthy. And basically also understanding that all of this has to work in a way that we also support everything around working families that helps you do what you need to do. That means also strengthening our caregiving economy. And so that is to basically ease the pressure on working families as you are attempting to raise your children and also care for our seniors and for our aged loved ones. And so we will fight for workers' rights and workplace safety and fair wages and unions. And that's how we build back better, by focusing on the needs of working people and your families, which includes fighting for your rights and just treatment of all people. And that means and includes fixing our immigration system. A Biden-Harris administration will reinstate DACA on day one, send an immigration reform bill to Congress for immediate passage on day one, end family separation and the practice of this Trump practice of separating families at the borders and putting babies in cages. That will end. We will stop worksite and community-based immigration raids, and we will condition federal money on law enforcement's adoption of new national use of force standards. On policing and justice, that will include creating a national police oversight commission to take a national look at what needs to happen around de-escalation practices and making sure that they're hiring the right folks and that they're being trained in a way that we don't see the kinds of abuses that we have seen around the country. We will ban, meaning get rid of, chokeholds and carotid holes. Were that the case, George Floyd would be alive today. We'll end both cash bail and private prisons. Both of those things are really part of what has happened in the criminal justice system, which is about economic justice as much as it is about criminal justice, right? Cash bail, private prisons, take the profit out of people making money over the incarceration of other human beings. Cash bail, so you have the money, then you can get out. If you don't have the money, you stay in. That's an economic justice issue as much as it is a criminal justice issue. Under a Biden-Harris administration, we will decriminalize the use of marijuana and automatically expunge all marijuana use convictions and end incarceration for drug use alone. So this is no time, from I think our collective perspective, this is no time for half-stepping. This is no time for incrementalism. We need to deal with the system. And there needs to be significant change in the design of the system so that we can support working people, so that we can fight for the dignity of people, so that we can make sure that all people have equal access to opportunity and to justice. And so we are prepared to do the hard work. You do the hard work every day. part of our goal and the goal that we collectively have, and it will be the work that needs to go into achieving that goal is going to be also around unifying the people of our country and unifying them around the real solutions. And I do believe that one of the best unifiers is to show working people how much they have in common, and to lift up working people, because that way we lift up the middle class of America. That way we lift up the strength of our country and get one step closer to the ideals that we say we hold so dear. So these are some of the things that we're focused on. And I promise you that Joe Biden, you know, one of the things that makes me so excited to be on this ticket with him is that he, to his core, is committed to labor and committed to working people. And obviously also the contrast between he and Donald Trump couldn't be more stark. I mean, we all watched Donald Trump use the power of the presidency to downplay the virus, to tout false cures, and ignore the advice of experts on how to bring this virus under control. And now we know, despite what he was telling us publicly, he knew how deadly this virus was in February, and he hid the truth. This wasn't just a failure. He deceived the American people. As Joe put it, it was a life and death betrayal of the American people. So we deserve a president who will arm us with the truth, keep us safe, and unite us around solutions in times of crisis. And we deserve a president who understands service and hard work like you do. So let's elect Joe Biden as our next president so we can all get to work and get the job done of fighting to build back better. And again, I just want to thank everyone at Unite here for what you do every day. And I'm looking forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Senator Harris. I think we want to jump straight in. I know our 3 Unite Here members here have some questions they'd like to would like to ask you. So we're going to start right now. For the 3 of you, we're switching it up a little bit. So we're going to start right now with Yollette Larias from Unite Here Local 355 in Miami.
Hi, I'm Yollette Larias. I'm a member of Unite Here Local 355 in South Florida. I immigrated from Haiti to form a better life for me and my family. It means so much for me to see a strong Black Caribbean woman like you to be a next Vice President of the United States of America. As a single mom with 2 young daughters, I am so proud to have you to represent us in this country. COVID-19 has been a total devastation to South Florida and the hospitality worker like me. After nearly worked 27 years at Calder Casino as a cook, I was tossed aside like I mean nothing. I lost my job and my ability to provide for my family. I've been struggling for months to get the $275 unemployment from Governor DeSantis. And at 6 months later, until today, I am still missing 7 weeks of unemployment. The voting is the only way we can fix that situation. Florida is the most critical state in this election. That's why I'm doing everything I can to get the people out of vote. I'm confident we can take back our power both from Central and South Florida. Together, we can take back our country. Has COVID-19 been a devastation in Florida and the hospitality industry? Millions of people are out of work. What is your plan to bring jobs back? Thank you, Madam.
Merci, Madame. Thank you, Yollette, for everything. And, you know, my mother raised her 2 daughters, and you remind me of her with that strength of yours. So I thank you. I thank you. First of all, I was in Florida, South Florida last week, and I couldn't agree with you more, both in terms of the challenges that you face with that governor, and also the fact that I do believe it is within our grasp to win back Florida. We're saying, it's the 1% state. We just have to move it by 1%. And with leaders like you leading the charge, I know we can get it done. There are going to be a lot of obstacles that they're going to try and throw at us in terms of our ability to vote. One of the things that Joe and I are talking about constantly is that we want to make sure everyone votes early. Vote early, vote early, vote early. If you can, in your state, vote early, do that. If you can, when you get your ballot in the mail, vote early. And if you need to go to the polls on election day, just get in line early. But let us make sure that we do not delay, because the best way to make a statement about who America really is to show that we win, and we win with force. In terms of the hospitality industry, it's more than most industries, of course. You're going to require a certain kind of support, right, to open safely, because, like I said earlier, part of the issue with the hospitality industry, like many others, is the consumer has to have the confidence to come back, right? And so part of how we think about it is that in terms of what needs to be supplied around PPE and things like that for small businesses, for industries, to make sure that, and to require that they put in place standards in compliance with OSHA standards so that they can reopen safely, so that the people will come back. But also, our administration will provide funds for employers of Unite Here workers to rehire and retain employees as part of what we call our restart package. So our restart package. And basically, we'll provide state, tribal, and local public health departments with the resources they need to certify businesses as safe for shoppers. So once they've complied with the testing procedures and the safe protocols, right, around COVID, then they are designated safe for shoppers. And in that way, we can also increase the demand for hospitality and leisure industries by putting, basically a shot in the arm, like they say, of the economy, right? And so including through our investments in infrastructure and clean energy and manufacturing and small businesses, and by also providing additional stimulus checks to families who need it. We also have to support restaurants. And so doing that through legislation which would temporarily allow FEMA to pay restaurants to prepare meals for the hungry without requiring cash-strapped states to provide any matching dollars. So that's actually a bill I introduced in the Senate. Jose Andres, who's been doing extraordinary work all over the country, Puerto Rico being one of his areas of focus. But basically saying we as government can help restaurants if they're feeding the hungry and give them the support they need, the financial support. And that way we can keep those restaurants open, and they're, of course, doing a public service for their community. And that's all in addition to providing paid leave and necessary PPE and the emergency standards through OSHA, which is what we talked about earlier.
Great, thank you. So our next question is going to be from Yolanda Scott. Yolanda is a member of the Culinary Union in Las Vegas.
Hello, my name is Yolanda Scott, and I'm a coffee shop food server at Treasure Island. I have been a member of the Culinary Union in Las Vegas for 28 years. And as a union food server and a frontline worker, I love what I do. I have the opportunity to meet people all over the world every day. I make sure that the customers who visit my coffee shop are well taken care of. I love what I do because I'm a union shop steward, because I became a union shop steward because I wanted to be treated fairly. My coworkers and I have worked hard to earn our seniority and benefits. We believe that we should be treated with dignity. I know that workers in union, we can really win big fights. My union fights for workers like me. My union has been able to win good contracts, health care, benefits,
Hold on, Yolanda.
fair wages. Hello?
Yeah, say that last part. So benefits, go on.
Okay. Benefits, fair wages for my coworkers. Which is a really great thing considering most of us are Black and brown and working women who support our families. Healthcare is really important. And I believe we have one of the best health benefits in the world. I have arthritis and I've been able to get my treatment. I need my insurance. My union has fought hard to make sure that my family and I have health care during this pandemic. My question, Senator Harris, is what will you do to protect our health care?
I appreciate you, Yolanda, and I have spent time talking with your members there in Las Vegas, and I am very well aware of the incredible work and just the brilliance of, frankly, of the strategy of the culinary workers to have demanded and negotiated some of the best coverage for any group of workers in the country. And obviously, look, unions, this is why we need unions, because it is, regardless of the sector, in terms of the kind of work that people do, it is organized labor that makes sure that we that we enforce the right for a fair wage and for retirement security and a safe workplace and paid family leave and sick leave and definitely, to your point, health insurance. And so in a Biden-Harris administration, we will guarantee that unions and union members can keep their current insurance. That's what you want to do. You keep your current insurance. And we'll also offer access to universal health care. And so that includes 100% of COBRA benefits, which was a provision fought for by labor, as you know. We'll also make sure workers and all labor unions have a seat at the table. And I feel very strongly about this. Dee, everybody, you got to be you have to be at the table as we discuss the best ways to expand health coverage and access to quality care. And that's not to mention, of course, what we also need to do around protecting pension plans and collective bargaining everywhere in the country. And as you know, in many places in our country, it has been under full-on attack. And again, I stand proudly with Joe saying we will defend collective bargaining and also make sure that we enforce the laws against right to work states and what they have done or have attempted to do to take away the voice of working people. But you fought and won these protections at the bargaining table. And for those reasons and so many more, you can be sure that those rights that you have earned will be protected, and not only at this moment, but permanently.
Thank you, Senator. So our last question will come from Maggie Acosta. Maggie is a member of Unite Here Local 11 in Phoenix, Arizona.
Hi, my name is Maggie Acosta. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I was employed by Flying Food Group for the last 8 years. And I'm a proud union member with Unite Here Local 11. I am a single mother of 2 boys, and I'm also a cancer survivor. Mm-hmm. So when this pandemic started, my workplace closed its doors forever. Mm. And I was left without a job. Even after the company getting all this money from the government, I am still without a job. Then a few months back, my son, he got sick with COVID-19. It was the most terrifying feeling. I wouldn't want any mother to feel this, because just to hear my son saying, "Mom, I feel I'm dying. I don't want to die." It was really heartbreaking to me, because I didn't know the answers of what to tell him. I just knew I had to be strong for him. It was a struggle of taking care of him, but then taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment, I totally blamed our governor, Doug Ducey, for not taking care of this sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, President Trump for thinking it was a hoax and coming to Arizona. And even though masks were mandated, he told everybody, if you're coming to my rally, you don't have to wear the mask. Back in 2018, I led a team of canvassers to put Kirsten Sinema onto the Senate. Then the following year, I led another team where we got the first housekeeper at City Council. This year, I decided that even with this pandemic, I am out leading another team, knocking on doors to elect Joe Biden and yourself. Because I really believe that it's women of color like us that can make this happen. My question to you, Senator, is what is your plan to get this pandemic under control?
How's your son doing now?
He's better. I'm not going to say 100%, but he's a lot better. He's back, started working again, and little by little, he's getting there.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for asking.
It's a lot, Maggie. It's a lot. And I thank you for your strength and for your courage. And, you know, it's really in moments of this kind of pain and suffering, leaders reveal themselves. Because true leadership is not about leading when life is easy or when it's convenient. It's about when things are rough. And you have to pull and you have to push. And that can be very painful. And you are an extraordinary leader, as are all of the women and that one man who's on this panel. And I thank you all for that. I thank you for that. So in terms of what we are doing, I mean, look, first of all, we've talked about it a bit. You know, Donald Trump, right, he called it a hoax from the beginning. I mean, did you guys see, have you listened to that tape, the Bob Woodward tape? I mean, you know, and that's not even like Bob Woodward telling us what Donald Trump told him. He doesn't have to tell us what he told him. We just listened to it, right? So in January, he got briefed. He knew how bad it was. In February, he talked about how bad it was. It was funny. Joe Biden did an interview, and then he said, well, now at least we know the guy can read, right? Because he clearly had some kind of briefing in January that told him enough. So that when he's talking about COVID in February, he says it's airborne, to your point about masks. He says it's airborne. He says it's lethal. He says he goes on to describe airborne, in case Bob Woodward, I guess, wasn't clear about it, to say, as different from you can get it on a surface, right? So this is how well he understands the deal. And yet, as recently as yesterday, did you guys see that rally? As recently as yesterday, I don't know, somebody told me a couple thousand people packed inside, packed indoors, not wearing masks. Somebody said, but the people behind them were wearing masks, right? So, first of all, Donald Trump lies. He has two sets of rules about the reality he chooses to discuss, the one in which he lives, and then the one in which he tries to push on other people, right? And in the midst of this pandemic, he's been trying to also suggest that there's basically the pandemic, and then there's the economic crisis, as though they're not connected, when they're directly connected. The economic crisis is a result of the pandemic, which is a public health catastrophe unlike anything we've seen in probably a century, that he pretended didn't exist. And as President of the United States, probably one of the most important jobs of the President of the United States is to concern themselves with keeping the people of the country safe. And he failed. And he failed on just a very basic, essential responsibility. So listen, I mean, Joe Biden and I, to your point, you're asking how are we going to handle it, right? We're going to start by getting the virus under control. And that's how we will get the economy moving. So yes, we are going to do what we need to do around getting the virus under control while we support industry building back up, reopening small businesses, building infrastructure. That's going to be about job creation. But we have to get the virus under control. And that's how we'll then get the economy moving, right? In a real way, in a permanent way, so that we can get money back into people's pockets and get consumer confidence back up so they go back to the restaurants, they go back to the casinos, they go back to the businesses. And this is, of course, especially important for folks who work in service and hospitality, because your business is built on social interaction, right? It's built on people hanging out with each other, laughing with each other, socializing with each other. And so specifically, we will promote a national mask standard to give basically the standard, right? Which is that people ought to wear a mask. I've been saying nobody likes wearing a mask. Like, who likes wearing a mask? Very few of us, but we do. We do for a number of reasons, which at the heart of maybe the moral imperative is about love thy neighbor, right? But as I said earlier, the scientists have already made it really clear. If everyone wears a mask, you'll save tens of thousands of lives. So that's one of the things we'll do. We'll listen to the experts and work with local and state officials and unions to determine the best ways to reopen safely and not play politics with people's lives. And then expanding access to testing without cost. And that's really important. And when we, God willing, have a safe vaccine, expanding, right, and making sure all people have access to the vaccine without cost. And that includes for both testing and vaccine, regardless of immigration status, which is very important. And then what we need to do to build the infrastructure, right, to do a number of things, but specifically contact tracing. So these are some of the things that we will do that are very specific. But it is about it is about listening to the scientists. It is about being honest with the American people and speaking truth. People can deal with anything as long as we're talking truth. And, that speaks, I think he underestimates the strength of the people of our country. We can deal with just about anything, but deal with us straight. Don't play games and don't play us. And that's what he's been doing. And so we look at where we are right now, and he still doesn't have a plan. So I appreciate your question.
So, Senator Harris, I really want to thank you first for taking all the time. I know you're extremely busy. Obviously, there's 50 states, and we really appreciate it. As you can tell, we're very focused in on Nevada, Arizona, and Florida, and Michigan. That we're doing work in other states. One, we want to thank you. We're very proud about endorsing Vice President Biden and yourself for the highest offices in this country. Just two things, sort of our perspective that you might want to take back to the campaign. Number one, we are the only organizations right now going door to door. We have a very strict health and safety protocol. I would strongly urge you to re-examine how y'all talk about that. It can be done. It's done differently, but it can be done because people want to talk with people, not just at them. That's one. And the second is, I know you're going to be in Nevada tomorrow. I think it's extremely important that two things. One, there's a large number of veterans in Southern Nevada, and I think you should just take it right on that how Trump feels about veterans. And also that, frankly, he cozies up to Putin and turns away from allies. And then also, clearly, there's a large number of folks, whether they be dreamers or others, that I think need to hear repeatedly how the administration is going to be totally different, not putting kids in cages, not deporting people, but valuing people. So I appreciate all the work you did. I'm not sure if you have a closing. I don't say any closing. You've been very generous with your time already. Our workers, as you can hear, they're the salt of the earth. There's what makes our union go. Frankly, it's what makes this country go. And
That's
I
right.
want to thank you again and look forward to the next 50 days.
Well, thank you, Dee. I just want to say thank you. I mean, you know, like we were talking about, and what Maggie was talking about. Look, everybody is going through their own, especially your members, right? The Unite Here members going through such difficult times right now. And you know, and the thing about this moment, nobody was ready for this. Nobody planned for it. Nobody invited it. And certainly nobody deserves it. And, but folks are suffering. And so I'll end where I started, to just say thank you. Because right now, this is probably one of those times that really do test our ability and our resolve to be a leader, especially the kind of leaders that are on this call who lead because it's personal to you and because you care and because you see and you feel it. And so there's a lot of pain associated with leading at this time in terms of what, you know, your folks are going through. But you guys keep getting back up and you keep fighting and organizing like Maggie was talking about. And I can't thank you enough, because you're right. You guys are the backbone of our country. You know, like I said earlier, it's much easier to lead when times are convenient and lovely. It's a whole other thing when it's like this. But you guys keep doing it, and you are not giving up. And so on behalf of Joe and myself, I say thank you. And I hope to see you guys in person soon. And I will follow up with you on the door knocking piece. And also, I'm going to find out. I'm heading to California to go and visit with some of the firefighters and the folks in terms of the fires. And then I'm going to head back out through Nevada. So I'm going to see if there's any possibility I can also see any of the veterans. But in any event, I will follow your advice on that piece.
Thank you very much, Senator. Thanks everybody on this Zoom call once again. And
Okay.
Let's just go win. We just have to win. There's no substitute for that.
Let's get it.